What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new series that I am doing on this channel. And I know you guys are used to vlogs and a bunch of other random stuff that I post on here. However, today I think Yahuwah has shown me something that I believe is important to share with you all as well. And that is to explain to you guys the holidays and its origins and why we, as followers of Yahuwah, or in Christianity terms, followers of Christ, that we should take a step away from celebrating paganistic man-made holidays. And the first one I want to do a deep dive into is Thanksgiving. As a disclaimer, I just want to go out and say that this is not a judgment of anyone who does celebrate Thanksgiving, but this is just an informational video to inform those who are in the same journey as myself to build a closer relationship to a Yahweh. With that being said, let's dive on in. The first thing that I want to cover is just what the definition of pagan means. So according to the dictionary, pagan means a follower of polytheistic religion, as in ancient Rome or Greece. So with that understanding, let's kind of get into the history of Thanksgiving. So first and foremost, Thanksgiving is not necessarily much of a holiday of Christian influence, but even so, it does have similar traditions to a good amount of pagan harvest celebrations. I will cover a couple examples. So the first one is Cyrilia. So what is Cyrilia? Cyrilia is one of the most important festivals in ancient Rome and is celebrated in honor of Ceres, the goddess of agriculture, grain, and fertility. Cyrilia in particular symbolized the connection between the divine and the agriculture cycles that sustained Roman society. Another example is the Harvest Home celebrations. In addition to Harvest Home, there was a separate religious holiday called the Days of Thanksgivings that was practiced in the Church of England, where people would set aside one religious day of their choosing to give thanks to God. We get Thanksgiving from that Christian tradition, while the feasting associated with Thanksgiving is largely derived from Harvest Home celebrations. Looking at current day practices for Thanksgiving, and since our celebration was never commandeered by the church, the holiday still remains pagan to this day. As for the first Thanksgiving, we know that this was between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans in 1621. The Native Americans celebrated its feast long before Pilgrims and helped them with teachings and gathering the food. In doing so, the Native Americans and how they celebrate feasts give thanks to many spirits and deities, which we will get into as I talk about the symbols of Thanksgivings. So for the symbols, there are three that are more popularly known for Thanksgiving: the cornucopia, turkey, and corn. So the cornucopia is known as the horn of plenty, the attributes of various Greek and Roman deities of fertility and wealth. It is said to have been fashioned from one of the horns of Amathalia, I think that's how you say it, the goat that suckled on Zeus on Crete. It is also very important in ancient Rome. As for the turkey, this is also a famous one, in relation to Thanksgiving. That's the one that we always see. However, the turkey, in relation to the Native Americans, it has always meant more than just food. It is tied to spiritual and cultural symbols. For example, the turkey was seen as a symbol of fertility and abundance. Their feathers were also used in ritual wear and in smudging ceremonies. So just think about it. During Thanksgiving, a holiday that according to history was shared with Native Americans, the turkey carries a lot of spiritual power, and unknowingly, we are also keeping those old spiritual traditions. Then, if we're looking at corn, this crop plays a big factor for Native Americans for their spiritual beliefs. in an article, which all the articles that I have in this research that I have for this video is also in the descriptions if you want to go and do some research for yourself. But I'm just going to read a short excerpt to give you guys an idea of how important corn played in the Soul Tribe. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it. It says, corn itself calls the old hermit from his tent, and it is suggested that he was chosen because his medicine was considered far superior to all others. This line is not only referencing the medicinal roots that warriors came to him for, but also his medicine, his personal spiritual power, which would have allowed him to access to the spirit world and the realms of the unseen. Although under normal circumstances, it would have been inhospitable to shoot an arrow at a guest outside one's door. In this case, the act serves as a kind of acceptance of the invitation offered, especially since the corn spirit first approaches him with a flint-pointed arrow. The old hermit at first follows the conventional etiquette of rising to greet a visitor, but when this proves futile, he resorts to firing his own arrow at the voice, which presumably he would have understood as the right action because of his spiritual insight. So from that excerpt, you can see from the few symbols mentioned as well that there are a lot of spiritual deities involved with Thanksgiving that the world is celebrating together. Yahweh is not the focus. And for more evidence, let's talk about sports. The sports aspect that is also involved with Thanksgiving. Because we know there's always a football game coming on during Thanksgiving. There are a couple of examples of Celtic pagan harvests that normally include sports, but I'll just cover only one. So the one that I'm going to cover is called Lunasa. I'm sorry, I had the pronunciation written out, so sorry. It's called Lunasa. And this festival is named after the god Lu and involved great gatherings that included religious ceremonies, ritual athletic contests, which most notably are the Telltale games, feasting, matchmaking, and trading, and they also have visits to holy wells. So overall, Thanksgiving, in the aspect of looking at the history, the symbolism, all the spiritual ties, Thanksgiving is a way to subconsciously tap into the mind of people to get us to celebrate harvest like it was back in pagan times, in the times where pilgrims honored the spirits of the land by being with family, watching men pummel each other like football, and feasting on an abundance of food. So now that you kind of have an idea or understanding of the history and why this holiday is so paganistic, let's look at some of the scripture so you can also get the biblical side to see what it is that we should be doing instead. But first and foremost, I want to point out something to you guys about just looking at some different words, and I want to point out that holiday itself means holy day, and holy is meaning to be set apart. So if we look at Exodus chapter 19 verse 6, as you can see here, that he is saying that they shall be a holy nation, a nation that is set apart from everyone else. And if we look at Jeremiah chapter 10 verse 2, you can also see that it says to not learn the way of the heathen and to not be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. And if we go back and look at the definition of pagan, heathen is a synonym to describe paganism. So that is which it is why it is important to step away from paganistic holidays according to the scripture that I just showed you. And if we look at 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9, this verse is just doubling down that we need to be a peculiar people and not the people who follow the ways of the world, but only the way of Yahuwah and what is written in the Bible under his jurisdiction. In the Bible, there are plenty of feasts that we can celebrate, such as the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles. This is mentioned in his Torah, or you can, refer to just the Old Testament. This is not something I'm telling you to go out and live like Hebrews, but it's just an informational video to show you that we should not praise or worship idols or other gods, because this is what we have been doing unknowingly, unintentionally, because of the spirits and the traditions that get carried through these man-made holidays. And you'll commonly hear a rebuttal saying, well, for Thanksgiving, we don't celebrate those traditions. We come together and we give thanks to God. And once again, I reiterate that holiday comes from holy day. And holy day means to be set apart. Did Yahuwah teach us this holiday to celebrate in his name? The short answer is no. This is a holiday amongst others that has been passed down from generation to generation, and it has become a tradition which has led us to being comfortable. And also, with how the world is set up, these holidays have given us days off which make it convenient to celebrate them. So if we were to do what's in the Bible to go against these normal holidays, there's always going to be conflict. So it's easier to conform to something that's already been built in. But Thanksgiving itself carries spiritual tradition, no matter if we change the purpose of how we celebrate it. Because Yahuwah has feasts strictly for him, and the world celebrates Thanksgiving. So with that being said, would it not make sense for other people in different countries to celebrate Thanksgiving, but have different reasons that do not include Yahuwah? And if everybody is celebrating Thanksgiving, and everybody is celebrating Thanksgiving with a different purpose, then how is it that just because you said, well, I'm doing this because of God, but then you have people in a different country doing this maybe for Buddha, or like any other thing? It just doesn't make sense. And all of this is just to say, just pray about it for yourself and let the Most High guide you on your journey like he is doing with me. This video is just for informative purpose only, and I just felt the responsibility to share it with you guys. And me personally, I will stand firm with the decision that I have made for myself to separate myself from paganistic holidays and follow what is in the Bible. Now that you have this knowledge, it's up to you what you want to do with it. So you guys stay blessed, don't stress, and peace.